I mean, you obviously have to have some sympathy because, you know, the country's fucking falling apart. But at the same time, like, do you need to have a whole ton of sympathy if the group that's trying to get something done about it is constantly getting hampered by this group who's trying to, like, tone police the fuck out of this random lady who's funding the event that is, you know, helping mobilize the left against what is happening right now. And their alternative to that is just kind of sitting on their ass and complaining on TikTok. Like, it feels kind of hard to feel super sympathetic when you're literally, like, kneecapping the people who are trying to get stuff done. Alright, we're gonna watch this video. Hopefully it's all right.
And it wouldn't make sense given that those women would not accept my apology anyway. I'll just say who it was. It was Dean.
Okay.
And if we keep doing this like tone policing and this, you know, everybody's racist and everybody's sexist and everybody's a misogynist, like we're gonna keep losing young men and young people to the other side. So we just have to decide like what is more important. Like, is it more important for us to be right or is it more important for us to win? So I'm assuming.
We'll see how that goes, but I mean, I even reject that this is something that is right to do. The tone policing shit, it seems really, really probably harmful, especially from their perspective, because now, like, you've literally driven this person who is super sympathetic to all of the TikTok lefty people to destiny. So, you know, the tone policing thing, even if you want to just look at it from a winning perspective, I don't think it's a right perspective either.
We're not live?
No, I just said, sorry, wait, I just said we're live, so don't say anything crazy, okay?
Okay, gotcha. I'm Z. I'm the executive director of National Ground Game and Soul Strategies, political organizer, political operative. Been doing this since 2010, 2011, and now have, I guess, come into the spotlight due to this entire situation.
When you say you've been doing it since 2010, 2011, can you just curious, what was your start into organizing?
Yeah, so I went to school at Wagner College, which was a small, like, liberal arts school in Staten Island, New York, which is actually
I just realized I'm covering Destiny up. Wait, hold on. Up here. Destiny's really small. Wait, why? Why does it look like that? Wait, hold on. Hello. Wait, why is he so cut off? Peeking up over the screen for what? Play capture. Is it cropped? Oh, I know why. LOL. Okay.
In 2018, and during that time, I started school there in 2010. And that was during like the Occupy Wall Street movement. So there was just a lot of stuff going on. Like there was a lot of protesting. There was a lot of like civil disobedience, and I would have to like take the ferry back and forth to school. So I lived in Washington Heights, and like I would have to like literally like go through Occupy Wall Street every day. And that sort of like started my questioning around like, well, like what is like the oligarchy? Like what do they mean by like rich people are taking over the system? And so I started like really looking into that. And from there, like got involved in some like local elections, like for city council, some stuff for state senate, and then started teaching a course in college called Society and its Social Problems. So I'd help like the freshmen with that course, and that's when I decided that, you know, I really wanted to get into electoral politics specifically.
Okay. And then the PAC that you described now, what'd you say it was called?
It's called National Ground Game.
Okay. And then when did you start that PAC?
So it started 10 weeks ago.
Okay.
This is not like you know, I think a lot of people are like, oh, you know, this is like a very well-established, you know, in the space. And it's really not. Like, people don't understand that this PAC was seriously just a passion project. Like, me and my like very good friend that we did work together on Bernie's campaign, we got together and we were just really pissed off about what happened with Kamala's election, and like, not just like how much money was spent and like how irresponsibly it was spent, but just like the general sort of malaise of like not going out to middle America, like not having the ground game that we thought that we really needed in order to win. And so because of that, we saw a lot of places that Trump took over that he shouldn't have, right? Like, you know, New Jersey, which was like way really like out there, Virginia, you know, places like that, that shouldn't even be considered like moving into swing state territory. And so we decided that, you know, what is something that we can do to make sure that as we're going into the midterms in 26 and into the presidential election in 28, what can we do to make sure that we don't continue to lose ground in those areas? And so we came up with the idea of national ground game because we're like, okay, well, if we can mobilize people in these areas, if we can get them out door to door, if we can actually do real deep canvassing, like not just like GOTV canvassing, but like real deep canvassing, that we could convert those people, and then we might have some success at making sure that that we can take back the House in 2026 and the presidency in 28.
Sure. And then just for people listening, the GOTV stuff is like get out the vote. That's like not targeted canvassing. Basically, all you're doing is you're kind of just like going out and talking to voters and making sure they know that they're signed up to vote, as opposed to like actually going to people's doors and trying to change people's minds and stuff like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like, yeah, the problem with GOTV canvassing and just like the Democratic Party as a whole and like how we tackle elections is that we always wait until like 2 weeks before election day, right? So like we totally ignore these areas, like we don't go out, we don't do the organizing work, and then as soon as we actually need people to vote, we try to go out and we have these sort of like surface level conversations. But at that point, people are too angry and like they just don't care or they just don't answer. And so the idea of deep canvassing is that we go out there and we actually, instead of us like trying to get information out of people, we're asking them to give us the information. So we're saying, okay, you know, you're angry about these issues. Like, why are you angry about these issues? And like, what can we do ultimately to get you back on our side? And that's a lot. It's a lot more time, it's a lot more money, it's a lot more effort. So a lot of people don't do it for that reason. But if we see like the statistics of districts that we flipped in the past, like for example, I was just talking about like Staten Island, right? Like Max Rose flipped that district in 2018. And the way that he did it was through deep canvassing. Like he had a massive deep canvass program that actually flipped voters to register as Democrats.
Yeah, one of the things I spoke about, or I've been talking about, is this, I kind of joke, but it's not really a joke at all, actually. I shouldn't even say I kind of joke, is that Trump can be like easily analyzed as kind of like an influencer president. And if you work in the influencer space, one of the most important things is staying relevant and being on people's minds. And as much as people might make fun of Trump for the constant unhinged tweeting or the constant unhinged posting on Truth Social, he does a really good job of kind of like staying ever present in the mind of somebody. And like you said, you're up against this really difficult fight where you start campaigning for an election a month or two before or a few weeks before, and you realize the opposition has been campaigning basically since the end of the last election. Like all of these issues have been present in people's minds for so long. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem is like Republicans never leave.
I've also
right?
heard like a lot of people, shit, it's one of the people in the server, it's either Lunar or Coop, I think, asking like, whenever the question gets asked of like, okay, why did the Democrats lose this election, they'll always say like, well, you know, the Republicans spent 4 years campaigning, plus 4+ years campaigning, and we had only like a legitimate campaign for like what, like 2 months. Yeah, I mean, that generally seems true.
They set up shop in a place and they're just there forever. And so that makes our job a lot harder because we don't have that infrastructure on the Democratic side. And I think a big part of why we don't have that infrastructure is from a lot of what you've talked about, Destiny, right? About like how we are so concerned like with our image, like we're so concerned with what everybody says and all of that bullshit that we don't actually care about like the electoral organizing piece of it. Like we'd rather look good than do good. And so because of that, like, and we don't stick together. So when something like this happens, like everybody just fractures off into a million different pieces and like runs around like chickens with their heads cut off. And Republicans do completely the opposite. Like Republicans like mold together, like they stick together, and it's like they're all always on the same messaging. They stand up for each other, like they do that, and we just don't do that.
Yeah. Okay, so then I guess to catch people up then, I thought that I didn't know the PAC was as recent, I guess. So I was hoping to move a little bit more sequentially through time. But okay, so you've been organizing for a while. You worked a bit on Bernie's campaign, and then now you started kind of this PAC as a passion project. And then this is where I guess
it's crazy that like. So I mean, Destiny is very famously like an establishment shill, based, may I add. It's interesting that this person who's literally like campaigning for Bernie, like obviously this like Z's ambitions are a lot further left than even the person that she's talking to right now. And she got excommunicated for being racist. That's crazy. And she was campaigning for Bernie goddamn Sanders. Holy.
And my audience heard about you for the first time. So do you want to walk through, I guess, a little bit, I guess, from your perspective, like the sequence of events that happened? Everybody saw everything blow up kind of on a huge TikTok call. Yeah. What was the context, I guess, to that?
So let's go back, I guess, I think it's important to know a little bit about the PAC first as well. So the PAC started 10 weeks ago, created by me and my friend, I won't mention his name. But, Bernie Sanders operatives, really care, we're both Democratic socialists. I helped AOC's campaign too in 2018, so like you can tell how far left I really am.
Mhm.
And we started when we started this PAC, we decided that the first thing that we were going to do was work on the Florida special election.
Bernie isn't that far left, buddy. When we're talking about like on an American scale, Bernie and AOC is about as far left as like a realistic campaign could get. But the idea that somebody campaigning for Bernie Sanders or AOC, who is like, not only like, they are far left. Don't like get it twisted. They are far left on an American scale. They are definitely far left, and they're like populists, and they're like super woke. Like they're not going. They're social issue people. They're social, people. They're not socialists, but I mean, they're populists. So I mean the idea that somebody that was campaigning for Bernie Sanders, who has like a super populist movement, who has like a super woke following, gets excommunicated for being racist like that is nuts.
There were 2 districts that were up for different reasons. We're up to have Democrats potentially go into those seats, and that would tie us back the House, or actually win us back the House if we actually also won the New York seat, which, because our team did so well in those 2 districts, Trump ended up pulling out Elise Stefanik at the last minute, so we couldn't win the House, unfortunately. But the idea was there at the time that we could win back the House if we stuck through with those races. So that's what we did. We started like first week in February. I had a TikTok that went pretty viral, thanks to Hawk on TikTok, who I got to work with. And we raised about $400,000 for that, which was really unexpected. So the first thing that we did with that money was that we mobilized as quickly as we could, and we got.
And just wait real quick, just to understand the scale of things. So you guys raised $400,000 off of primarily viral TikToks, kind of.
Yeah, so it was just literally one TikTok went viral.
And this was just for a special election House seat for the 2 ones in Florida, and then you said the one in New York, right?
Yeah, so the one in New York hadn't been announced yet, so it was going to be announced, they thought, in June or July, but because this election, like these 2 seats were looking, the polling was not looking good in the Republicans' favor, specifically in Josh's district, which was District 6. So he was running against this guy, Randy Fine, who is like a horrible piece of crap. You guys could look into. And so Randy Fine was not a good not a good Republican to start with, but Josh had run a very, very competitive race, and they did polling a couple days before, and it looked like Josh could have won by 3 points, which in like a plus 30 Republican district.
Y'all, are you the one playing Factorio? No, that is indeed Stephen Kenneth Bonnell II playing it.
Is insane. So that's why Trump, I guess, got nervous about that, told Elise Stefanik to not leave that seat. And then because of that, obviously, like we couldn't win back the House. But still was worth like fighting for, because if we could even tie the House, right? Like that's like better than nothing. But we got out there, we flipped Escambia County blue for the first time in 30 years, which was huge. We shifted both of those districts 15 points to the left. We got 1,000 people registered in District 6, which was massive because these are very low turnout elections. And we did all of that in like 15 days. So we showed that like we can definitely move these districts like further left. And so because of the result of that, we had a little bit of money left over after the election, and we decided that what would be the best thing that we could do to build electoral power with that money that we had left over. And the idea was that let's go after the person that we think is the best organizer in this space. And honestly, like the biggest threat in this space, which is Charlie Kirk, right? Charlie Kirk is, not the best debater, not the, not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he is arguably, I would say, the best organizer on the Republican side.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit about this, and I've talked on my stream about this. Listening to him talk to Gavin Newsom, I was astounded at the amount of political savvy, I guess, that he has when it comes to organizing and understanding elections. He's an incredibly intelligent person.
Yeah. He is. Yeah, he is. And that's what makes him so dangerous, because Turning Point USA has been around. I think that their inception was 2009. I'm not sure if Charlie had been there the entire time, because he was very young, obviously, at that time. But it is his organization now, and they have been very successful. He visited 300 college campuses just last year. And if anybody thinks that didn't have anything to do with the fact that we lost.
I don't even know if these guys are saying that Charlie is the best debater per se, but they're saying that he's like the best at organizing. I'm trying to think of like a conservative debater that I think is better. I mean, obviously I would say Ben Shapiro is a better debater, but he's not as hard-lined as Charlie Kirk is. Like Charlie Kirk is like one of the Trump dick suckers, and Ben Shapiro is probably going to diverge from Trump on like 1 or 2 things. So I would say that he's going to be like a better debater, because I think he's just smarter. but I would say that Charlie is better at organizing and like keeping a good image, I guess. I don't know.
The young person vote, specifically young men, more specifically even than that young white men, then I just think that they'd be lying to themselves, because that, you know, Charlie is really the only person in this space that is tackling that group. Democrats are not doing that work at all.
Yeah, and it was by, I think some of the polling might have reverted by now, maybe because of the tariffs, but it was a huge margin. It was the largest, I think, ever difference between young men and women in the history of all of recorded polling for differences in political opinion. Young men were swinging like plus 30 red compared to young women in that age group. So, Jesus.
It's huge. It's so huge. And the fact that nobody, I mean, like, we talked about it a little bit after the election. There was some like commentary on it here and there, but nobody was talking about it in the sense of what are we going to do to win these people back? Because if we lose our young people, then like what the fuck do we have? Like, how are we going to win elections? You know, it's like that's like the one group that we're supposed to rely on for Democrats, and we can't even rely on that anymore.
Yeah, that taking some groups of people for granted is probably not the way to go.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay, so so you guys started the Unfuck America tour, and that started with your highlights here were Dean and Parker. These were your like two kind of lead talent people. Can you talk about what was the thought process for getting these two guys? How did you set this up initially? Like, how did you reach out to them as far as you're comfortable sharing and everything? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So the idea was that we were going to go after Charlie Kirk. That was the idea. And we were going to create the exact same tour that he has, which is essentially that what he does is he sets up his tent, right? He does like an Ask Me Anything. It's really just to get clips to, you know, quote unquote, humiliate, you know, young Democrats into looking stupid so that goes viral. And then but really, that's just sort of one piece of his operation. The other piece of his operation is the Turning Point USA piece, which is where he is essentially getting these young boys, mostly in frats, from what I have seen on the outside, to organize chapters to then flood this information on college campuses, which is really smart. And so our idea was to do completely the opposite. We want to go into sororities, and we want to get the girls, because our idea is that guys want those girls, and those girls are mostly liberal anyway. But if we can get more of them to join our side, then we have an even better chance at, you know, continuing this organizing work that we desperately want to do. And so we were thinking about, well, who would best represent young boys on these college campuses? Who do they want to be? And that's something that is difficult, because while the right has got a lot of these like fresh and fit, you know,
the whole manosphere basically ends up pulling for the Trump crowd.
Yeah, like we don't have that on our side. And so Dean definitely was the first person that came into my mind, because he sort of is the only person that I know that's of that age group, but then also sort of bridges that lifestyle space with the political space, with the debate space. And was really happy. I reached out to both Dean and Parker through a friend of theirs on TikTok, who I was a mutual with. They were interested straight away. They thought it was a great idea. And then at first it was just going to be that. It was just going to be Dean and Parker going to these college campuses. We'd set up the same way that Charlie Kirk set up. And then eventually we wanted to get other influencers to come in. But then we thought about it, and we thought, well, how do we know for sure that we're going to be able to go viral with this? Like, what is a way that we can strategize that to know that we almost have 100% chance at going viral?
Sure.
And the way that we decided to do that was by getting in sort of these micro influencers, or not even micro. I mean, some of them had like pretty.
Not yet. I haven't done my daily apology for my microaggressions yet. I'm going to go through this video and then apologize retroactively for anyone that I have during this video.
Platforms, and get them to sort of push the same content at the same time, so that we would all go viral, which worked. That was, you know, it was a great strategy, because almost everybody on the tour went viral. Dean had the most views that he's ever had on a video. I think he had like 25 million on one of his videos.
The problem that I saw with the Unfuck America tour, and the way that that I only saw clips, and if it turned out to be like politically effective, then fuck me, I guess. But it feels like the problem was that Dean isn't as good at clip farming as Charlie Kirk is. Dean, all of Dean's clips felt like super soy, and like it wouldn't even frustrate anybody a lot. It would just be like, you know, like that's the most that you would get out of one of Dean's clips. Whereas like Charlie Kirk typically at least kind of makes half a point. Dean wasn't even making points. Like the one clip that I saw where he was like, did you hear that? Chet here thinks that all of you guys are murderers, to like a crowd full of women, and then they would scream. Like, it was like, that's not even effective, even kind of. It's not like a good clip. But But I mean, maybe that changes people's minds. I don't know. Maybe I'm just on another level. I don't know. But it just felt like so vapid and like nothing.
First video he posted just on TikTok. That same video I think did over 20 million on Instagram as well. So definitely, like, the strategy definitely worked there. But unfortunately, that was not the whole story, because even though it was successful, not just during the tour, but when we came back, clearly there were some other things at play that turned the tide.
So you guys did a grand total of, you just did one event before this recent kind of blow up happened, or had you done multiple?
No, just one. Yeah,
Okay.
just Texas A&M. Yeah. So, and the idea was that we were going to use that virality and for fundraising purposes, so that we could continue the tour and, you know, go to wherever Charlie Kirk would go next, and hopefully we'd be able to grow this out so that we could hire staff. We could earn like equivalent of Turning Point USA chapters within these schools. But of course, you know, with $100,000 that we had, like, that wasn't going to be able to happen with just that. So yeah, it was a big part of the success of this was making sure that we went viral so that the fundraising could continue.
Okay, so you guys do your first event. As far as the event itself goes, and as far as all the media that comes from that, everything is pretty positive, right? I didn't think there were any problems related to the event itself. It wasn't until afterwards, I guess. What exactly happened? There was a Discord, or not a Discord call, sorry. There was a TikTok call group thing where I guess some people wanted to express some frustrations. Can you explain, like, who are these people? What were the frustrations? And then how did you end up getting involved with that?
Yeah, so like the event was extremely successful. So just to sort of paint the picture, we had 5 staff borrowed from different firms that me and my friend both work for. That, you know, I have my own firm, he has his own firm, and we lended staff to this project. So we had 5 staff that were on the ground. We had 4 temp staff that came in and out of the project like as needed, and we were essentially handling 35 influencers on the ground, which at first we thought would be easy, but turns out that influencers think that they're actors, and definitely act that way towards low-level staff. And so, you know, overall, I think it was very good. I mean, yes, there were a lot of, you know, diva behaviors and things like that like we dealt with, but you know, we work with candidates, so we get that those things happen. And the actual event at the university.
Can I just real quick, let me just qualify that, just because I want to be as fair to all sides as possible. Let me qualify that, because so I used to be a professional gamer, and I've worked a lot in these spaces now. Well, actually, I guess organizing these exact spaces, and then also on the pro gamer side and the influencer side and the streamer side of things. For a lot of these people, it's just that a lot of them are super young. They've never actually had a job before. They've kind of been thrust into the spotlight. They have like huge sums of money, sometimes coming in if they're big enough, or lots of fans. And it's just, yeah, for a lot of these people, it sounds stupid, but on a business meeting, I imagine for most business conferences, you're able to say, this is the time that you have to show up for this conference, be here, here's the schedule, and then you're good. It is absolutely not that way with anybody in this space. You need to have people calling to make sure, did you wake up? Did you remember to take a shower? Do you have all the things you need? Did you catch your flight? You need to be here at 7 a.m. You have to stay for the full time. You can't sneak away and go do something else. You have to come back tomorrow. You can't get drunk or high or do any crazy stuff tonight. Like, it's a lot. It's almost like a babysitting job when it comes to, just because of the age demographic and everything for these people. But yeah, just, I didn't know the number before. So you saying like, oh yeah, 35 influencers in and out, that should be easy. That's like 10 full-time jobs worth of managing children. And I say children endearingly, and that scales all the way up to 40, 50-year-old influencers. It's everybody acting like that. Yeah.
It's everybody. Yeah, it's everybody. It's like, I guess like going into it, we just didn't realize like how not self-sufficient.
You have to have some empathy for the black TikTok activists. Like, your country is falling apart and deporting random black people. There's this history in the making. Yeah, to a certain extent. But the problem is that if you watch that video, there's somebody who's like literally, I don't remember the specific quote. It's just it doesn't feel like that group was even sticking up for minority groups necessarily. It felt like they were just sticking up for black women. So I mean, like, kinda. You obviously have to have some sympathy because, you know, the country's fucking falling apart. But at the same time, like, do you need to have a whole ton of sympathy if the group that's trying to get something done about it is constantly getting hampered by this group who's trying to, like, tone police the fuck out of this random lady who's funding the event that is, you know, helping mobilize the left against what is happening right now. And their alternative to that is just kind of sitting on their ass and complaining on TikTok. Like, it feels kind of hard to feel super sympathetic when you're literally like kneecapping the people who are trying to get stuff done in regard to it.
these people would be, and so that was a big part of it too. And I won't say everybody. I mean, some of them were awesome. Like some of them were like blue collared, types that came in, got the job done, understood the assignment. But then a lot of them, yeah, exactly what you said. Like it very much was like a babysitting situation. And we had, as I said, we had limited staff, so we were really just like working as hard as we could. The school was not on our side at all. The day before they canceled our spot that we were supposed to be in, we were meant to be 20 feet away from Charlie. They canceled it by saying that they didn't realize how many people were going to be there, because I guess like it had blown up a little bit on social media and the school got nervous. So they were like, hey, we can't do that anymore. So then we didn't have our spot, and so our team was up till 3 o'clock in the morning, rescheduling out. We had a 6-person creative team that we'd scheduled where they were supposed to be on campus at all different times. That whole thing fell apart. We couldn't do that.
It's not real organizing unless there's a dramatic shift in plans 12 hours from showtime or whatever, of course. Yeah,
it was. And so like we got there, and we honestly, we did the best that we could with what we had. The school told us that we could like go rent out an amphitheater. They told us it was 1,500 feet away. It turns out it was completely on the other side of campus, like miles and miles away. We were like shoveling like sound equipment, like huge pieces of sound equipment, all of this. But even with like all of that stuff happening, it was so successful, because what we basically decided to do as a staff was to divide and conquer, which I think was like the best organizing strategy we could have done, which was that we decided to set people up where Charlie was, even though we didn't have a tent, but we still set people up there. And what ended up happening by doing that was that people were drawing people away from Charlie's crowd. So Dean was like in the middle debating people. We had 2 other creators that had another debate circle. And so what was happening was that people were interested in what these debate circles were happening. And so they were literally like pulling away from
especially
Charlie.
Because as Charlie's gets so huge, you could either be 200 yards away from Charlie, or you could see this other tent that's set up that people are going towards and be a lot closer there and everything too. So
yeah,
that is really smart. I never even thought about that. Like literally, like not only being there to, kind of counteract messaging wise, but also like draw away from Charlie Kirk because you have more opportunity to be on camera and like talk to a famous person. That is really fucking smart. I will say that's good shit.
Because we didn't even have a tent, we were just like we had influencers going into the crowd and being like, come with us, like, go to this debate circle, go over here. And that was really successful, because at one point, there were more people around those 2 debate circles than there were actually watching Charlie, which was that to me was a huge highlight. But then also, while that was happening, we had the amphitheater going on where Parker was, and so Parker was down there debating, and we were drawing kids in as they were leaving class. They were all going onto the field, which was also a nightmare because the school like turned the sprinklers on people to get them to leave and all sorts of stuff. And then at night, Charlie had a huge like closed door event, and honestly, it was terrifying like how many people were there. I mean, he probably filled at least 3,000 to 5,000 people in that venue. And we were waiting as the lines were like beginning for his event. We had Parker and Dean and all the influencers essentially doing the same thing they did earlier in the day. So they were pulling people out of the line, getting them to debate, and then creating debate circles around them, which was distracting people from entering into the event. And then while they were in the event, we set up a stage in the pavilion where they were leaving the event. And so we were doing a live debate there too. And that grew huge as well. We had tons of like kids coming out watching. We had parents coming out. We had people exiting the event watching. So overall, like it was really successful, even with all the hiccups along the way. And then when we came back, the virality of it, the fact that we had, electeds and people that were interested in the tour, all of those things like was successful. And the creators knew it was successful.
Because for a lot of these creators, this was like some of their largest, I think you said for Dean, right? It was the largest video that he'd ever had on TikTok as a result of this, right?
The largest one. He picked up something like 300,000 followers on TikTok, over 300,000 followers on Instagram. He got over 1 million on Instagram during this tour.
Yeah. So I think I saw something. I don't know if this is like a drama subreddit. That is just I'm not sure, but I think this is the first time that I think Dean passed Parker in subscribers or something, and I think it was largely off the back of this. Am I getting that right?
I'm not sure about their subscribers, but that wouldn't surprise me at all, because like just the reach on his channels alone from this was absolutely massive. Like, and not just him. We had smaller creators, because a big part of this too was that, and that's why I think this whole thing is so funny, because it's like a big part of this was we wanted more people of color, more women, people with smaller channels to have the opportunity to get some of this wave right to them. And so we had people with like between 20 and 40,000 followers that were getting 6,000 people watching their live that day. going like mega viral. We had people picking up, between 20 and 100,000 followers on small accounts. So so it wasn't just successful for Parker and Dean. I mean, it was absolutely successful for every creator that came.
Sure. Okay, so then, so that happened. Everything seemed like a success initially, and then so what is this? What is the call? I'm sorry, I've been informed. It's not a call. It's a TikTok live. Yeah. What is this TikTok live?
So everything's great. We get back. It's Wednesday. Between Wednesday
no one else is
and
massive. You are
Sunday,
so funny and smart.
everything is like good as gold. People are talking about when is the next one, when are we organized, like what's going on. We were telling them essentially, give us some time. We're still getting out content. We're going to figure out the next stop. And then I guess something happened on either Saturday or Sunday that like changed the tide.
And real quick, just on dates, this was on Saturday or Sunday. This was on the, how long ago was this? Was this the 27th, 28th, or the 20th, or the 19th and the 20th?
Yeah, well, the event was on, let's see, when was the event? I can't remember.
I'm trying to remember when we cover this, because all my time runs together now.
All my time goes too.
The 3rd and 4th was the last weekend. Was this last weekend, or was this the weekend before this, the 26th, 27th?
It was the 26th.
Okay, so the weekend of the 26th. Yeah. Okay, go for it.
Yeah, so it was the 26th. So let me actually even
back
before
up
this all
happened.
Yeah, sure. So after that live happened 3 to 4 days before the event. So we had a group chat.
That's right. Okay, that live happened. Yeah. The infamous live happened before the event. Okay, gotcha.
It was so it was before, and that's very important to this story because like it was before the event, clearly before the event, enough time where anybody could have easily pulled out of the event and not gone if it was a big problem. But they again, I should not have ever joined a live. I told them this internally. There's a text message of this. If you go to CFH Unfiltered has a whole article about this. I highly encourage people to read. But,
we listened to that article on stream. I think we went through it. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay, yeah. So you've seen the text then, right? So I apologize. I took full accountability over text to the team. I told them that, I should not have joined a live. Obviously, I'm the principal in all of this, and like it looks unprofessional, and I just shouldn't be on live. And also, obviously, I don't want people to feel shitty. Like I know that there are like people that weren't invited to this that might not feel good about that, and my intention was not to make anybody feel crappy because of that. But like after like 4 hours of them like trash talking me, my entire team, calling us unorganized, saying that we were picking people to be on the tour that were DEI hires and side characters and all these like crazy things about people that we're like friends with and helping.
If you ever get in a debate with Dean or Parker, already have, little flex, you just need to ask if every slight thing is a microaggression, and if they fight you, ask them to define it. I mean, like the idea of me getting in like a beef with Dean or Parker, probably not. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like the kind of thing that I would argue with them much, but holy, I'm tired. If the opportunity presented itself, I mean, I would do it, because the way that they handled this was really fucking stupid. But I mean, the chances of that opportunity presenting itself seem pretty low. Even though he did join my live stream, and even though he did say "W host," that's a quote directly from Dean. Just saying. I'm kidding. Well, I'm not kidding. That did happen, but I don't know. Yeah, it's just not, it doesn't really seem like it's in the wheelhouse unless I go out of my way to request onto their live and then like debate them about microaggressions. It just doesn't feel like I'd probably get kicked anyway.
I was like, okay, let me just try to shut this down.
And I'm not trying to wait like 45 minutes to talk to them about that.
And so I took accountability for that through the text. Everybody essentially said, don't worry about it. These are bad actors. These women have a long history of doing this like to other people and other movements, specifically to Dean and Parker. One of the girls had like a long history with Dean where she told people, she told him to like go kill himself, things like that. So they basically said, listen, if you publicly apologize for this, you're just going to keep the ammo going because they're not going to accept your apology. So
also, and then just for people that are listening, I don't know if I said this on stream or if you just said I missed it, but the people that had made this live, these people weren't associated at all with your movement. Like they weren't part of the crew. They weren't anybody out there. They were just people that were kind of commenting on it from afar. What was even the basis for their claims that it was like disorganized?
They never gave any like. I asked them for examples. They never gave any examples. The person that like started this whole drama, which I'm not going to mention her name because I don't want to give her any clout, but she has a long history of doing this and is friends with the girls that started that live.
Sure.
And so yeah, I mean, she's just a bad actor in the space. Like she does this with multiple, like she's done this with multiple things. This
Sure.
is not like
And then
I'm not
also,
a step away.
just I'm sorry, I have the influencer brain. I can't.
That is not what everyone said. Most people wanted her to apologize publicly, even the people on tour. I don't. I just don't really think a public apology was necessary, realistically. But
See every clip in before it's even made. Okay, so I'm helping to clarify some of your statements. And if I'm not clarifying them correctly, you also feel free to correct me. But when you say she's a bad actor in the space, what you mean is that like this is a person who doesn't seem interested in providing the type of critique that could actually strengthen the performance of any of these events. It's just somebody who just kind of wants to, you know, sit on the sidelines and throw bombs at people and watch stuff kind of explode, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this when I say bad actor, I'm not like she's not a bad person. Like none of them are bad people. It's just that these are not people that even believe in the electoral process. Like they've said that like one of the girls on this live said, because another person had joined and said like, hey, don't you think that this is like not helping us electorally? Like maybe we should like think about that. And she said, the Democratic Party, I don't want them to win anyway. That's not the purpose of this, right?
Sure.
So
and then it just says for people that listen to this event, or for people that see people that make criticisms in general, something that's true of being parents, of being teachers, of working in management is it is incredibly important to provide like a unified front to everybody. Like you don't fight or second guess each other publicly. And then when it comes to things like criticism, if you genuinely want parties to improve in any given environment, generally those criticisms are always made privately, unless it's gotten to the point to where you feel like you're literally not being heard and there's something that's like so destructive that you have to step and call it out. But making these types of criticisms in a public forum almost always lends itself to just being a catastrophe. And so typically when people are doing it, it's usually just to cause catastrophes, I guess, for anybody who's listening or that cares. But yeah, so it's generally not, or at least you can remember, but it's generally not appropriate to start calling out or criticizing people publicly unless like every other option has failed and now you understand you're going to be causing a huge shitstorm doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like none of these, to be clear, none of these people had ever reached out to me or anybody in our organization to like air grievances or anything, right? Like they just went live and did, you know, a 4-hour live, 5 hour.
One of the funniest things of all the fighting for this, and I don't know the relationship between all these people, but it was that Peyton guy telling, I think it was Dean, because it sounds like Dean somehow caught wind of some stuff that was shady or something. I guess somebody didn't get paid or whatever, and Dean was trying to, I guess, reach out and try to compensate those people and make sure those people did get paid. And Peyton was like, I'm not going to tell you who it was because it's not my place to say, even like, and the obvious answer was that he just didn't want anybody to even be able to make anything right. He just wanted to kind of be able to publicize it and criticize everybody or whatever. So the goal of this whole event, it seemed like, was just to throw bombs at people. It wasn't actually improve anything or make anything better. But
no, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't that at all. So like with Peyton too. So because Peyton, the whole Peyton thing happened before the tour as well. So Peyton did not reach out to anybody on our team. Like nothing. There was no like grievance or any inquiry about people not getting it. To be very clear, everybody got their travel paid for. Like the idea that like we didn't pay for people of color to have their travel paid for is just absolutely, like I don't even know where that even came from.
And it's on its face. It's also, I always think it's important when you look at people making criticisms, like be aware of like the exact criticisms that people are making, because on its face, like what are we saying
Where is
here?
the short stream? I didn't have the opportunity to set up the plugin. All right, give me. I'm lazy. Okay, give me time. I'm busy.
That this event had like deliberately tried to exclude black people from being paid for that. Like, it's just such an honest face.
Next TikTok debate stream, it'll be a short stream. Okay, I promise.
Ridiculous. Like you would obviously assume there's some kind of mistake being made here before anything else. So to instantly jump to that, I think is a little bit comical. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually like the fact that anybody even would believe that to me is just like it just like shows that there's like, you know, that people aren't
I'm not the one playing Factorio. It is Stephen Kenneth Bonnell II.
With Peyton, I mean, he released that video without talking to anybody, and then thought that it was weird that we asked him to like return our rental car, which obviously was like in the company name, that if you're not going on the tour, of course, like you'd return the equipment that the tour rented you. Like, and nobody was even telling him to take the video down or anything. I mean, we just basically were like, okay, you're not going? Okay, great. Like, just return the equipment.
Oh, yeah.
That's all.
I always cringe when it comes time to handle like confrontational, like bad events, because it's a very challenging situation to navigate. Even people that work professionally in HR, it's a very challenging situation to navigate. And Peyton, I guess, tried to do a getcha on a phone call where somebody, I'm assuming from your org, was calling to return the rental car. And I was surprised it was a professional call. The guy didn't seem upset or anything. You know, he was just asking, you know, to have the car returned and all of that. And I think he was even careful with his legal phrasing, like, well, we can't keep you from going to any events because we're on a public campus, but obviously there are some people that prefer you wouldn't and everything, so it was pretty professional. And then Peyton tried to do something, I think it was in text messages with you, where he said that you lied about him signing a contract. Do you have anything insofar as that, or what?
Yeah, and I was like, I was responding yes to something not anything to do with his contract. So I was like, but he didn't have a contract, and nobody was telling him to do anything. Like all we were telling him to do was just please return the rental car that we rented you. Like that's literally all we could do, like legally, and all we wanted to do. Like we didn't, it's like, okay, if you want to use your platform to take this thing down, I mean, that's fine. I don't really get it, because if you're a good person out there, like doing good work, and you care about this electorally, and you care about stopping Charlie Kirk, then to me that just feels like a very I don't like antithetical mission to all that.
Yeah.
But it's his it's his platform, you know. I mean, he could do what he wants to do. But
gotcha. Yeah. Okay. We read those messages, and I couldn't tell. I didn't ask you about this before, I guess. So I was curious what your response was now. It sounded like he was asking basically. It was something along the lines of like, am I violating a contract? And I think you said, yeah, the car needs to go back. And the way that I read those text messages were you were responding about like the rental car contract or whatever. And I think he was trying to spin that into saying that you guys were falsely claiming that he had been trapped in some kind of contract or whatever. So I thought it was all kind of ridiculous. But
he was really like reaching just for anything that he could. And the weird thing to me about Peyton is that if he really did care about people of color on this tour and the fact that they weren't paid, why didn't he reach out to any of them? Because he didn't. Yeah. He did not reach out to a single person of color on the tour. I spoke with every single one of them, and they were all equally as disturbed. And also, even some of them had said like, dude, you're not our white savior. Like, we don't need you to like come in here and you know, destroy the tour, destroy our opportunity, but then also like pretend like you're sticking up for us when you're clearly like just doing this for to chase clout and to chase money or whatever his motivation is.
Yeah.
So
so this call happens. Oh no, wait. So we're still before that. So stuff is happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the whole stuff happened with Peyton, and we essentially just ignored it. We said, okay, we're just going to continue. All the people on the tour that I had spoken with directly, especially the people of color on the tour, had told me to not apologize. That they did not think it was a microaggression, and it wouldn't make sense given that those women would not accept my apology anyway. So it would bring in more negative attention. And I guess that sometime on Saturday, maybe Friday or sometime in that time frame, I guess that there was a conflict between one of the creators, who was a man of color, and the other POC creators on the tour. There was miscommunication between them. I really don't know what happened to this day. The guy's name is Mr. Jones, that they all, I guess, got angry with about something. I don't know what the whole story was, but essentially they had decided that I did need to make a statement on Saturday
and then just to keep
Saturday.
names straight, Mr. Jones was somebody that was working with you guys. That's part of your org, and then they were talking with another influencer that was also part of the tour, and then so all of these people got together, decided that you should make some kind of statement.
Yeah, so Mr. Jones was an influencer. We don't have any relation to that man, and in fact, there are a lot of allegations that have come out since that we are not in support of. He was just a random influencer. Like,
okay. So he wasn't. Yeah. So he did go on the tour, or he didn't go to the tour. Okay, he didn't. Okay.
Right. No, he was on the tour, but he was not a staffer, like nobody, like just a random influencer that was on the tour.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And so he had told me multiple times that he had spoken with all the POC creators, and they had all said, because even after we had that text message exchange, I still wanted to be sure that they didn't want me to make a statement, because I felt like I should make a statement. That was like my initial gut feeling, because I was like, okay, if I make a statement, and I just basically told them what I told everybody else, which is the truth, that this would go away. That was like my initial thought. But Mr. Jones had told me that you know, to not do that he had consulted with everybody, that they were still all on the same page about me not making a statement. And I guess according to the creators, he had never had that conversation, which I don't know is true or not. I feel like, because the creators had also told me the same thing. So like I think it could have been true, but I don't know for sure.
It's really hard. I don't know if you figured this out yet, but it's very hard because a lot of people will say things and they're not even really lying, but like, especially when you've got so many different people involved. This is why, and I'm sure you know this from the organizing side of things, like chain of command is so fucking important. It's because somebody will say something like, I think somebody like A and B will be talking, and then they'll talk to C and they're like, yeah, me and A and B were talking, and like, I don't know if it would be good if Z were to make a statement. And then like C will talk to someone else, be like, oh yeah, well A and B said that Z definitely should make a statement. And then D will talk to someone else, be like, a whole bunch of people have been talking and think that D shouldn't say anything. And things like telephone, like very I'm
not gonna lie to you guys, this is so boring. This is so boring. This isn't even like any of the kind of interesting parts, because I think she's probably too sympathetic to have the real argument of like, hey, you shouldn't have been kicked off because this was bullshit, right? Like, and the microaggressive and like the tone police bullshit is really stupid, right? She's probably not gonna have that conversation because my impression is pretty far left. And Destiny, I don't think, wants to push her to that. So now we're just talking about like all of the boring minutia bullshit that doesn't matter. Talk about I've heard claims about like money going missing. You could either talk about that or talk about like the interesting thing maybe. But I get it. It's supposed to be like a cordial interview, not like a drama slop thing. It's just you know.
Very minor ways from party to party, but then by the time it reaches something, yeah, things can get very, very dramatic very quickly because people start coming with much stronger statements than what were actually said. And then I'm sure you've played this game of like, okay, well, who actually said this, or what was actually the statement here? And then you find out that it like doesn't exist, or it was like the weakest version of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really like what was going on, was that like I think maybe they had a call and maybe they had agreed and then maybe they hadn't. I mean, I have no idea, but ultimately, I guess that they were very, very upset with the fact that he was talking for them, whatever, you know. I think that was their main complaint. So I had, and by the way, Parker and Dean, I want to make it very clear that Parker and Dean, at every single instance,
you should try and do a summary of the whole drama and try and mix in as many microaggressions as possible. I'm good. I'm probably not gonna do that, but yeah, I'm all good on that. Good idea though.
Throughout, before this happened, during this, and afterwards, had said to not make a statement. Very specifically said not to make a statement, said that it would not be good for them or for us, and had requested that we do not. So I guess they had all gotten together. We had a meeting planned on Sunday morning, which was, you know, so this was happening Saturday night. So Sunday morning, we had a meeting planned. We didn't know any of this was going on Saturday. So I guess the creators had gotten together, created this alternate group chat sometime between Friday and Saturday, and essentially made a plan, in my view, to take over the pack. That was the ultimate goal, was that they didn't want the tour to end. They just wanted me to be completely out of the picture and for them to take over the whole organization, essentially.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so with their own person, whatever that means. And so I guess I wasn't involved in those chats, so I don't know what went down. I just got this through secondhand information of people I know that were in those chats. Was that was ultimately the plan, and that if I didn't immediately agree to step down, that they would continue the tour on their own. That was the plan. So we had a meeting scheduled for Sunday morning.
Also, wait, I'm so sorry. I'm hijacking this a little bit from ourselves because it's funny to hear a lot of stuff. One of the things that I talk about a lot, this happens in video games, it happened in real life management scenarios for me. There's a thing that I call this second meeting. And basically what it is you have your main meeting where people bring their grievances and people talk about what's going on and you all make a plan. And there's always this thing, I call it second meeting. And it's where there's another group of employees who they have like their own kind of structure. And they're like, we know the real grievances, but we're not going to tell management. We're going to all sit here and say it amongst ourselves. And it kind of like, it's this weird resentment thing. And if you're part of like leadership or you're part of management or you're part of like people management, you have to be able to identify these groups of people. And then you either infiltrate with your own employee or you just go to yourselves like, okay guys, like tell me like what's actually going on. And if you don't ever get a hold of it, then yeah, you get like these weird semi-coup insurrectionist people that will, not to shit on them too much or anything, but like that's just a very funny thing that I've noticed. And it's funny that because I see people in chat saying second meeting and it kind of popped up again here. But
you can't avoid far left nonsense or weird identity stuff in organizing anyway. Just comes with the territory. I don't know if I agree with that. If you're organizing a bunch of TikTok influencers, it's absolutely unavoidable. But in general, I don't think that that's true.
I think I'm gonna start using that now, the second meeting.
Yeah.
That's so true. Like I've seen this happen. This is obviously like in my company, this shit never happens because we're like a group of like fierce women that don't care about this shit. But when I used to work for other places, like that stuff would happen all the time where they'd be like, I'd get invited to like secret chat groups and stuff. And it's like, you know, it's just, I don't know. It's dumb because like our team is so accepting and so like we want to hear everybody's input. We want to
like why just tell management, like they probably want the project to work, just like tell them, figure out a way to it's very frustrating.
Well, and they knew originally I wanted to make a statement anyway, so I wouldn't like, it's not like they'd come to me and say, hey Z, we've changed our mind, and I'd be like, well fuck you guys. You know, I mean that's not the reaction they were gonna get, and they all knew that. So that's why I think maybe something a little more sinister was underneath all this about like the pack and then wanting to take over but I don't know that stuff for sure. That's just all like, you know, my thought. But essentially like they had their second meeting and they somehow decided in the course of that 3-hour meeting to not come to us at all and to just go live. So even though we had a meeting planned for the next morning, everything was good. I had spoken to Dean and Parker that morning. They had basically said that they thought that Parker, more so Parker than Dean, had thought that it was a good idea at this point to make a statement because he was getting a lot of pushback on his like personal channel. And so I essentially said, okay, I want you to actually, because they hadn't actually watched the live at that point. So they were saying things that I was saying that I never said. Like they were saying like, oh, you need to apologize because you called them aggressive. And I said, well, I didn't say that. And they were like, okay, well, you said this. And I was like, well, I didn't say that. And so I was like, okay, well, why don't you go watch it? And then let's come back and like have like a real conversation because I don't want to apologize for something I didn't do. I want to make sure that it's a genuine apology that actually makes sense. And they never called me back. So they entered into that meeting, their second meeting, whatever, and basically just decided at that point that they were all going to go live and just tear this whole thing down.
Okay, so they went live, and this would have been on Saturday night. I'm guessing it sounds like.
Sunday afternoon.
Okay,
Like,
Sunday,
so
and this was
yeah.
after you had the meeting or before your meeting?
So they never showed up to the meeting. We
Oh,
had
they
the
just skipped the
meeting.
meeting. Okay.
Yeah, so they skipped the meeting, and then after they went live, we still wanted to try to save it. So we were like, okay, we know you guys were upset. Sorry, you guys were upset. Like we didn't realize how big this was because nobody told us like how big this was. So I was like, let's set up a meeting where we can like air our grievances and find a way to move forward. And so all the creators, all of them showed up to that meeting. Every single one except for Dean and Parker. Dean and
Okay.
Parker did not come. They had a representative speak for them, which was another
Oh
creator.
my god.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah, so that's essentially what happened. And then, I mean, we haven't really been in communication since that. I mean, there were, I will say, like, there were a lot of red flags along the way. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, well, everything was like fine and dandy and fine and good. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, like there were signs of, not that this would happen, definitely not that this would happen, but there were signs of people that clearly wanted to look good and not do good. And that to us was like, we had some internal staff conversations where there were just certain like things that happened where we were like, oh, like that's
Can you
not
give,
good.
without being too specific or without calling out an individual, I guess, could you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, like I'll give like one example. So like I'll just say who it was. It was Dean. We were at we were at an event. We were at the event and it was like super hot or whatever. And one of our staffers were like collecting orders for Starbucks. And like we like went and got the Starbucks and came back and Dean was like, well, I can't drink it out of this cup. And we were like, well, what do you mean? And he was like, well, I can't. He's like, they're on the boycott list. I can't drink it out of this cup. He's like, I'm gonna need you guys to find another cup to pour it in. So I have to
Gotcha.
drink my coffee. And to us that was just a little bit like, I don't know. First of all, Starbucks isn't even on the boycott list as far as I'm aware. And like,
Well, also, it's not adhering to the boycott if you just buy it and then put it in a different cup. Like, obviously, that's defeating the point of the boycott. But it's the
all, like-
same. It's the same thing as like, didn't Hassan do something similar where he got a Diet Coke, but Coke was on the boycott list, so he just poured the Coke into a different container. Like, it's like, either adhere to it or don't. Like, I don't know why. Well, I do know why. It's because optics, but like, yeah.
I don't know, like things like that, like it looked really like weird to us. We were like, why? Like you're that concerned about your image, but like you'll still drink Starbucks, but you won't drink it out of the cup. Like that's,
Sure.
I don't know. Like, and there were like multiple things like that happened where it was like, you know, like sort of like making our staff go out of our way to make them look good. That was sort of like the theme of a lot of these people that we were dealing with.
Sure. Okay. So
Yeah.
then, okay. So all of this happens. All of this blows up. On Sunday, they skip the initial meeting, and then this is the live, I think, where Dean announces that they made a huge mistake by not pulling out before the event. And then they say that everybody's basically separating if you don't leave, or that you need to leave and become uninvolved, basically. Was that kind of like the ultimatum on Sunday? And all of this is before any of this is actually presented to any of you guys or any of management or anybody in the actual organization, right?
Yeah, they had not come to us with anything before that live. So there wasn't like a meeting where they presented their ultimatum. All of that happened after the live had already happened. So there wasn't even an opportunity for anybody to step down or to do anything because they never even asked.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then that, yeah, and then I guess there was some fallout in terms of people arguing. There were the Substacks, you know, people posting stuff. What is your, I guess, how are you guys approaching this now? Is everybody kind of gone, or what is the?
Well, we're not inviting any of these people back if that's the like, and that's part of the issue is that like I just keep coming back to this of like people that want to like look good and not do good. And this is a really big problem that I found in the influencer space specifically. And I guess that's where my naivety was going into this, was that I thought that people that post political content care about politics. And that's just not true. Like that's, you know, like objectively just like not the case, you know, and I don't know what their motivation is for posting political content or for saying the things that they do, but there's a big difference, I think, between people that are willing to be boots on the ground and actually get this shit done versus people that just want to be keyboard warriors. And the keyboard warriors are the dangerous ones because they claim that they're all for the cause. They claim that, you know, they really want to see us defeat MAGA and defeat Trump, but they're not willing to abandon the habits of why people leave Trump or why people leave the Democratic Party in the first place. And we know that people leave, a big part of why people are leaving is because of shit like this, because of like the tone policing and that's why I respect you a lot, because
I'm glad. Ooh, hold on. Well, we're gonna need to possibly condemn here, but I'm glad that she's doing, like, she's saying this, is that like this is what drives people away from the Democratic Party. I'm glad that she's acknowledging that instead of driving away from the Democratic Party. I think that's probably good. I
the first, or why people leave the Democratic Party in the first place. And we know that people leave, a big part of why people are leaving is because of shit like this, because of like the tone policing and that's why I respect you a lot, because like I feel like you sort of you don't sort of adhere to that stuff, and that's what I think we need to do if we're actually going to win these elections.
I will say though, if you're a Democrat and you're trying to make the Democratic Party stronger, the way to do that is partially like focusing on like what did she say, doing good over looking good, but I think moving in Destiny's direction might not be good either. Just because Destiny's concerned with doing good and looking really 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 bad, and doing bad as well. So I don't know if Destiny's the direction that we need to move in. We need to move in maybe like a healthy middle between Destiny and Dean, I think would be nice.
Elections.
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things, and then we spoke about this privately, and I've obviously talked to my stream a lot about this, is that in my mind, politics is for power. Like your goal for political anything is to leverage it.
I think if you're a Dem and you're trying to make the Dem party stronger, you need to fix your microphone. I think that if you are trying to make the stream better, that you need to not bring it up every goddamn stream and not send 30 messages every stream about how, like, nitpicking how to make my stream better. You should just enjoy the content. All right.
Gain some kind of political power so that you can enforce your political will on whatever society, right? In a democracy, you do this with votes. Monarchies do this with last names. Dictatorships do this with guns, whatever. And you get into this weird world where, something I've complained about a ton, politics is also like a very sexy aesthetic because it's politics. It's important. It has to be. It's politics. It's literally the most important stuff ever. So you get to talk about it and feel important. But sometimes it feels like, at least, I don't know why this is, but on the left, it feels like there's not as much of a goal with acquisition of political power as much as there is kind of like wielding that aesthetic to make money. And it's something I've complained about endlessly, that you get all these right-wing political influencers that are also working on all these political projects. You know, you've got Ben Shapiro and all the Daily Wire and their movies. You've got Charlie Kirk, who is like infecting the minds of every college boy in the United States. You've got your Nick Fuenteses who are doing their own like alt-right movements. Like everybody just seems to be working so hard on it. And then on the left, you have these guys, you know, your Hassans, your Vashas, these people that are making big 7, maybe even 8-figure annual incomes that do absolutely nothing with it, except, or the little bit that they do is aimed at just countering the Democratic Party. And I'm like,
Exactly.
What happened with, where's Antifa at? They were all over in 2016, and now in 2024, when it was like actual fascism, they're completely gone. And it's like, what happened to all of the protests? Like, man, if those pro-Palestine protests were happening last year, they must be going on huge this year. And I'm looking around, I'm like, where the are they at? Like, Netanyahu is talking about actually ethnically cleansing the entire Gaza Strip. They're going to move in and take over the whole thing again. Where are these people at? They're like not to be found anywhere. And it's like, Jesus. It's very, very, very frustrating, very difficult to work with, because like you said, you're trying to find people in the space like, okay, well, who wants to do things to exercise political power? And it's like, well, if I can get good clips on my YouTube and everything, maybe I'll kind of like tag along, but nobody seems to care much about the actual votes or anything. It's very, very, very frustrating to work in that space where they occupy the same space and they supposedly they share the same political label as you, but it seems like it's not really on the same page in terms of exercising that political power.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I agree. There's a big problem with far lefties, and this is the problem with a lot of leftists, is that they only espouse their leftist views in opposition to other Democrats. They don't espouse their views because they want political change towards the left, or like towards the further left, or they want to do it because it takes power away from the Democrats, or they want to look smarter than the Democrats, or the liberals or whatever. It's stupid.
Yeah, not on the same page at all. And you know what's really shocking to me too is that these political influencers actually don't know very much at all about politics. Like, that was really shocking to me, because I mean, I was having conversations with some of these people that I thought some of these things were like common knowledge, right? Like, for example, like what happened with Bernie in the 2016 and the 2020 election, right? Like, that, to me, that's just common knowledge, that we know that there was, you know, especially in 2020, I mean, all of these kids are old enough to understand at least that far back, but they don't have any knowledge of it at all. And to me, that's really concerning, because it's like, okay, well, if you want to exercise political power and you want to get people to come to our side, how can you do that by just memorizing like 10 different arguments that you use for debate? Mm-hmm. That's not, to me, that's not really doing anything at all. It's just, you know, you're essentially, you just want to have a couple of like gotcha moments, and that's great, but like, what are you doing to actually like open people's minds and to actually get them to convert to our side?
Yeah.
That's where I'm a little lost, because I just don't feel that after like having deeper conversations with these people, I don't think that there was anybody that we could say like actually had that goal in mind.
Sure, yeah. Which, and then I'll be fair to the other side. Like when you're young, it's hard to have that, I think, that orientation. Like you don't, like it's hard to imagine. I don't know how old you are. You say you worked with Bernie's campaign and everything. It's hard to imagine. It's funny because I was listening on one of these lives, an argument or something came up about Barack Obama, and I had to stop and think for a moment. I'm like, you guys were 12 years old.
Yeah. Don't stop. Memorize. Okay. Yeah. So I do kind of. The problem is just because somebody is around 20, that doesn't mean that they were politically engaged. If you just started being politically engaged in 2020, then it's probably like it makes sense that somebody's not super familiar with the super delegates or whatever surrounding Bernie getting robbed of the primary in 2016 or whatever the claim is. I haven't looked into it a whole ton. I just know the general accusations, but it makes sense that somebody's not going to be like that tuned in to the 2016 election when Bernie Sanders isn't a viable candidate. I don't know if anything was changed in that regard, but he's not a viable candidate, and that was 2 elections away. I do agree that some people's aims are they don't even think about their aims really. They're just coming on and they do like especially Dean, Parker, and Harry. They really feel like script bros, where they just kind of like walk people down the set script that they want to do. When Dean came into my live and he was like trying to walk the one dude down the line of well, aren't you trying to make Donald Trump more like the illegal immigrants that you don't like? I was just like, you don't. I can't believe that you think that that's a convincing argument. You're just it just sounds good. So yeah, I mean, I agree that like a lot of people try to like pigeonhole people down, memorize scripts, and that they don't really know what the aim of their content is. But I also agree that was probably a bad bar to set. First of all, that you need to know about the super delegates in order to prove that you're politically aware, and then 2, it doesn't surprise me that somebody with like 2 years of political experience doesn't have everything worked out, which is kind of what Destiny was hitting at before I cut him off so rudely.
Elected, you know, like your perspective on politics is probably going to be significantly different than my perspective for a millennial, and then obviously for people that are older. So I also get it too. I feel like one of the challenges is how do you weaponize or a nicer would be utilize kind of like a youth exuberance for politics, but not like that same party stuff. Like the thing that I'm so jealous about for the Trumples is they have all these people that are super amped up to do politics, and then at the end of the day, they're like ready to go out and vote for Donald Trump or support him in whatever way possible. Like these people are going to donate their firstborn to Trump. Like they're so excited and exuberant to go and vote for him or to support him, and then we can't get any of that on our side for literally anything. And the arguments for why people do it are not the real arguments for why it's not happening. Like people will say things like, well, Biden was old, and it's like Trump is old, Bernie's old, he has people that are excited about him, or the, you know, like, well, he misspoke or he said this or that, and it's like whatever you want to say here. Like Trump has done it 50 billion times worse, so something else has to be going on. And yeah, it's very difficult to get people on board with that actual desire to exercise political will. It's very challenging.
It is, yeah, because they just fall in line, and we don't. Like that's like the biggest issue is that we're never willing to fall in line, even if it means that like we're fighting against fascism. And I think that's where like we're pretty close, similar in age. Yeah, I'm 34, and so I totally get like a lot of these kids, especially like they don't have the history or like the knowledge to understand like how much shit we're in right now. I think like that's sort of the scariest part of all of this. But at the same time, like I would hope that they would like come to that realization, like just by like simply like what's happening, you know, because I know like if I was in college and I was seeing Trump do this shit, I would be in fear. Like I would be doing anything that I could, you know, and which is what I'm doing now. Like I'm just trying to do anything that I can to get people to stop supporting MAGA. And if we keep doing this like tone policing and this, you know, everybody's racist and everybody's sexist and everybody's a misogynist, like we're gonna keep losing young men and young people to the other side. So we just have to decide like what is more important? Like, is it more important for us to be right, or is it more important for us to win?
Yeah, and I would even carefully hedge that. It's like, I think it's worth it to call people out, but you have to be like goal oriented. Like if you're calling somebody out, especially if you're using terms like microaggression, I don't think people realize it, but like if you're calling somebody out for microaggression, this person is already on your side. There has never been in the history of all of the USA kind somebody that's gone up to like a neo-Nazi or a Klansman and be like, just so you know, you microaggressed, because the guy would just say, well, I'm sorry, I microaggressed. I meant to macroaggress. I'm racist, of course. So like when people start using these terms, like, okay, well, like they should be at the worst, it should be just like learning moments or whatever, you know, and at best it's just like, hey, you know, just give you a heads up that like this was kind of irritating for this reason, and like, yeah, but it seems like there's a lot of bad faith or lack of charitability.
Is Destiny ableist? I don't know, maybe depends on how we're defining. After all, someone who's 20 has Trump to be a major political thought leader for the last 10 years. Yeah, true. I'm 21. That's the first election that I even remember was 2016.
When it comes to approaching people on our own side sometimes, and then you end up in these moments where another huge thing for these moments that are so self-destructive, another huge thing, and you were a Bernie supporter, so I don't know if this encompasses you or not. I don't think it does, but I think we have to do a better job at identifying electoral or political allies as well. I don't mind people that are further left to me, but I don't think it can be like the socialists or the communists who are anti-electoral politics. Like, I don't think they have any place in any kind of movement that involves securing political power. Like we said this before, and when we spoke, and then I brought this up on my stream a lot, people will say things like the left purity tests, and that's kind of true. But the issue is that the left purity tests are on issues that aren't related to gaining political power. The right purity tests, but it's always in relation to gaining political power. Because on the left, obviously we've got this situation that just popped up with you and a trillion other situations. But on the right, like the two biggest examples I go to are that one, when Rittenhouse was floating voting for a libertarian candidate, I have never seen a more cultish movement of people being like, son, let me talk to you. We got to turn you around. And in one day, that kid changed his mind. Or when Joe Rogan came out, it was like, RFK, I might support him. And bro, the pushback that he got was insane. So they do the same virtue signaling and purity testing on the right, but they do it in an orientation that is about securing political power, which we need to do a way better job of doing on the left, I think. Yeah,
we just don't do any of that. Securing political power is not even, it's not even like in our heads at all when we're purity testing people. And that's what I don't understand, because especially with somebody like me, right? Like, I'm pretty much as far left as you can get. So if I'm not passing your purity test, then I truly don't know who is, and that's a big part of the problem too, is we got to call out people that are shitty when they're being shitty, but we also have to keep in mind what the intent is too. Because if the intent here is to combat Charlie Kirk, and that intent is more than whatever it is that the issue is, then we got to stay focused on that. Because I've had people on the left doxing me. I mean, saying things like, "Oh, you're just a female Charlie Kirk." That's just not true, And it's
Sure.
when we say shit like this is when people lose hope in the Democratic Party, because there are definitely people that are watching this situation right now go down with me and watching other situations go down, and they might be sort of petering on, do I really support Trump? The prices are still fucking high. I don't know. And then they see this shit and they're like, okay, I'm definitely not moving over to the left. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's my biggest fear of stuff like this, is not only are we pushing people out like me who are trying to do the work, but then we're also pushing out people that are viewing this shit and seeing it as a place that they don't want to come to and they don't want to be part of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So I guess, so you said you guys probably, I would encourage you to keep bridges open. When I look at Dean and Parker, so I've got I like these guys broadly because obviously I'm a debate bro, and I'm a white male, so we always I'm sorry, I shouldn't make it. I'm sorry. Wait, okay. I like these guys. Obviously, I think that I like the hardcore debate stuff from the left, because I think that nobody on the left does it. It's literally exclusively in the domain of the right. So anytime I see people on the left doing it, I think it's good. One thing that I wish people on the left would do more that I don't see people ever do is I wish they would kind of take a stand sometimes against some of the more aggressive tone policey stuff. Sometimes I feel like a lot of the power that these people have is literally granted to them because people are so quick to make concessions to them, and there's just no reason for it. I think that Dean and Parker are big enough figures that I think they very easily could have said, and I express a lot of frustration with them, I'm sorry if they're getting bullied or anything because of it, but they very easily could have said, hey guys, listen, the event was a major success. There might be some things we can do better. We're going to do those things better going forward. That's fine. And then that's it. You're good. I don't know why they felt that need to completely and totally capitulate to the other side in such a way that they're like, we're dumping all of this, because all it does is embolden and empowers these exact same people who you're never going to be able to pass their purity test. They weren't even working with the fucking project. Why are these the people you even care about? I wish that people would stand up a little bit more to that kind of stuff. It's very frustrating when they don't.
Yeah. And the thing is I've opened the door for them to be able to do that. They can still change their mind, because the funny, not really funny in a haha way, but funny in a dark humor way, is that because they did this to me, now the result of this is that they are all getting canceled themselves because of other bullshit that has come up, right? So for example, one person on the tour who was heading a lot of this stuff that was on that original live, something came out of her being absolutely horrific to transgender people, right? And somebody found that clip of them, surfaced it. Somebody else said that they were indigenous when they're not indigenous. All of these things are coming up now, and now it's just becoming the unfuck apology tour, and not the unfuck of it. So it's just it looks so stupid, because it's now you put yourself in a situation where now you have to literally apologize for every single thing, even things that you shouldn't have to apologize for. And now it's now we have all these creators that are offline, not doing stuff because they're so scared, because people are going to come at them for whatever bullshit that they did in their past.
Yeah. Yeah, and then not to say, and again, not to say that like people can't be held accountable for bad things that they do, especially once you've, I mean, everybody's done bad and stupid shit that they, you know, fucked up on. But like the goal of good criticism is to correct the actions and then to move forward in a positive direction, not to utterly annihilate a person so that they can't ever contribute anything positively again. Because, you know, like you said, there's a lot of political power that's just left on the ground here. And Charlie Kirk has found a way to utilize this through the Turning Point stuff. And then when I was doing my canvassing stuff, I noticed that as I go in these organizer spaces, like if you're canvassing for a federal election, if you can get like 30 or 40 people to be dedicated canvassers, that's like it seems like that's a really big deal for federal elections. And for me on my own as an influencer, like I can show up and pull 400 people over a weekend to go and knock on 50 to 100,000 doors. And I'm like, and that's just me. And I can't imagine like what a unified, you know, like 5 or 10 of these huge TikTokers together could easily get like 1,000, like more canvassers than you could even manage. Like at that point, the difficulty would be, you know, to get enough lists cut up to actually have enough doors to knock on or to do canvassing. Like it would be, yeah, there's just so much there. And it's like stupid shit like this hampers it. And it's very frustrating.
And that's like, I mean, just getting like, as you said, like even 30 or 40 canvassers, like that's what we had in Florida, and we shifted both of these districts 15 points left, right, in 15 days. So, and that's the other piece of this is like the Republicans never concede anything. Like there's no such thing to Republicans as an unwinnable district. They just don't believe in it. They're like, okay, you say it's unwinnable, like we're going to still set up shop, and we're going to, even if it means that we're going to have a 20-year plan to flip this district, we will, you know? And it's like some districts for us, like we don't even need that many votes to flip them, but the Democratic Party's like, no, it's like, you know, that's just too hard. It's too difficult. And the thing is, it's not too hard or too difficult. And that's why like National Ground Game exists, because we know that we have the infrastructure to be able to get the people out. And we were hopeful that the influencers would help us do that, because like, I mean, not gonna lie, like when Dean was on that campus, there was a line that never ended for people to see him. Yeah. Literally. I mean, it's just like the line just kept coming. Like there were hundreds and hundreds of people lining up. And it's like, if he used that instead of taking pictures with them and like using that for clout, if he actually used that to yield political power and to get those girls out there canvassing, like that would be huge for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to chat about in regards to this, or what's your,
No, I mean, listen, I'm just appreciative, Destiny, that you had me. I'm appreciative of all of the things. I really hope that people walk away from this and realize that like, I don't want to be famous. Like I don't want to be in this situation at all, honestly. Like I'm just a political operative from rural Nevada. Like that's it. Like I'm not a social media influencer. I have no like a desire to be that. I just want to run an organization that helps flip the House in 26 and helps flip the presidency in 2028. That's my goal. And anybody that wants to join us in doing that, like the tour is going to continue. Like Parker and Dean are not the tour as much as like they want to think that they are. They're not. There are so many influencers that reached out to us. A lot of them actually leaving MAGA people. From that group leaving MAGA that have wanted to help us with this, and that we're going to continue on. And like, we just hope that other influencers will see this and they'll reach out to us and bring in canvassers and bring in, you know, more support. And we're going to keep building this operation against Charlie Kirk and hope that it does something for the next election.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm sure we'll chat more again in the future at some point, and we'll keep an eye on everything, and yeah, maybe find a way to hang out or something with the event. Maybe I can get my people out or something. We'll figure it out. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot. Good luck with everything. Good luck with Dina Parker, and good luck with the pack. Hopefully this doesn't discourage too many people from working.
Well, Unfuck America Tour Part 2 featuring Harry Sisson and Destiny. Probably.